Grace and peace, everybody. I want to explain something. A video was sent to me. My man Des hit me with a video from a brother B had a little discourse. I can't say it was called kind of a debate with brother Polite. I want to talk about that. First of all, Rich says that in the last days, perilous times shall come. If you're an urban apologist and you're out here and you're on the block and you're in the streets and you're talking to these people and engaging, and not like some pastors may be that's disconnected from the streets and the occult doctrine and things that's going on in the street. We're living in a time where darkness is in the land. When we start dealing with Sandy Hook and Columbine and the Vegas killing, we have church killings. There's an increase in killing. In the occult, they would just say it's an increase in the vibrations. Old timers would just call the devil is running amok. And we have to understand that we're living in a time where people are walking and moving in occult doctrines. People are moving in darkness with dark forces and dark energies. But I want to talk about a little bit about that debate. A lot of people don't understand when you start dealing with people like Polite and Young Pharaoh. Anybody that know me from my lectures or anybody that know me from Sunday seminary, I said when we start dealing with Polite in the conscious community to help the church people, I equate him. Polite is the Creflo Dollar of the conscious community. He by far has more money than almost everybody else in the conscious community. He's an articulate one. Oh, that Polite's an articulate one. And Young Pharaoh. And why these two guys are dangerous here, and these two guys can be religious leaders. Polite may end up opening up a cult. He said he has a new covenant movement right now, and that they're eclectic. There are a lot of people that we're living in this time that's eclectic. So for the urban apologists, you just can't say because the Bible says so or a believer and you're dealing with the doctrines of Scripture. I don't quote a lot of scripture when I'm dealing with a lot of folk like that or when I'm talking in general for specific reasons. When we start dealing with these millennial, younger people are more eclectic. They'll take a little bit, oh yeah, God's, the black man is God, that part of the Bible is right. It's appointed once unto man to live and after that die in judgment. I don't want that part, the white man threw that in there. And they don't want that part of the Bible. People are picking and choosing from Hinduism, from the 5% lessons, from Freemasonry, from any esoteric teaching and doctrine that's prevalent on the internet. Every single thought. So everybody's doing what's right in their own sight. So what makes Young Pharaoh and Polite, Young Pharaoh, he's the TD Jakes. He's the TD Jakes and Polite's the Creflo Dollar of the conscious community. These guys, and not that they're smarter than everybody else in the conscious community, but they're extremely eclectic. They're pulling from everywhere. So if I'm discussing something, and I see some brother for the Moore Science Temple, all right, Noble Drew Ali, I'm automatically lining them up in my mind. All right, them brothers are Moors over there getting a haircut, we in the barber, whatever. And I know how to deal with them. Them guys right there, they're the Nation of Islam. But when you start dealing with this new breed, he's pulling a little bit of Dr. York. He's pulling a little bit of pseudoscience. He's pulling some real science. He's pulling some Nation of Islam. He's pulling some Freemasonry. He's pulling some Scientology. He's pulling from everywhere. That's what makes those two totally different. You can say what you want. Polite and Young Pharaoh are in a class by themselves when you start dealing with consciousness. I can lock a Sarah Suit and Seti, a Jabbar. You can lock them into Kemetic doctrine. You can lock them into certain things, but there's other people that's pulling from everywhere. That's what we say that's what I mean when I say that they're eclectic. And there's a lot of millennials these days that are eclectic in their doctrines. So you can't just box them in and say, oh, okay, I was in Sunday seminary. I studied a little bit of the Moore Science Temple with Brother Berean. No, it's a total different thing when you're dealing with them, because he's dealing with Dr. York, who was extremely eclectic. That's what makes Dr. York so dangerous and can have the whole entire movement, because he's pulling from Gnosticism, he's pulling from the Egyptian mysteries, he's pulling from the Dead Sea Scrolls, he's pulling from Kabbalah, he's pulling from Prince Hall, Scottish Rite, Freemasonry. He's all over the place. He's pulling from Islam, and he's pulling from the Nation of Islam. He's pulling from everywhere. And that's what makes them kind of dangerous. And it's hard to debate people that's extremely eclectic like that. Basically, you're wasting your time quoting scriptures. When we start dealing with that stronghold and darkness and this and that, a lot of people don't believe the Bible. Now, how are you going to approach those brothers, those individuals, if they don't want to accept certain things? Some debates are a waste of time, to be honest. Some debates are a waste of time. People want to just see what they want to see, and we're living in a time, and I blame it predominantly on people, because I get a lot of, I get so much stuff because people know what I'm involved in. I got and I might have that on VHS. Somebody brought up an old Dr. Ben, and Dr. Ben, and they were talking about religions before the Bible. Of course, they were religions before the Abrahamic faiths. Of course they were. But because a lot of pastors aren't trained, a lot of ministers, a lot of Christians aren't trained and don't know any better, they attack us for old beliefs and old things that were heard. And the majority of the things that were heard that they attack comes from the Word of Faith Pentecostal movement. Name it and claim it. You don't have to go to the doctor. Doctrines from I can't even believe old doctrines from Reverend Ike. Pictures of Bernard Jordan. These people, a lot of people don't understand, these people are not mainstream Christians, mainstream believers. They'll start pulling from Kenneth Copeland and Kenneth Hagin and all this other strange, crazy stuff, and they demand, because you claim you're a Christian, they demand for you to explain those things. You got to be careful when you're dealing with these people in this time that we're living in, because they're eclectic. So we'll think as apologists that we trained, all right, that brother's from the Nation of Islam, I know how to deal with him. He's going to start talking about Elijah Muhammad, and automatically you got your books coming up, Message to the Black Man and How to Eat and Live Well, and everything from Elijah Muhammad's going to come up because you've been trained in that one specific area. What do you do when they're eclectic? What do you do when they're coming from totally different angles? So you can't really lock Polite in. Polite will go debate, and he brought up some good things about the Hebrew language and this and that. He's all over the place, but he brought up some good things. That's how come it's hard even when the Hebrew Israelites are debating Polite. Polite don't have no one doctrine for nobody to attack. He's all over the place. Same thing with Young Pseudo. Young Pharaoh's all over the place. So those two are a little bit different, but they're the Creflo Dollar. They are the Creflo Dollar and the T.D. Jakes of the conscious community. A lot of people don't understand that you got to be careful when you're dealing with certain peoples, and the gatekeepers are gone. I was speaking a little bit about that in the lecture in Thrive. Gatekeepers are gone. Gatekeepers used to be grandma. They used to have a praying grandma, praying granddad, or the pastor of the church would be the gatekeeper, and a grandparent or your parent, because a lot of us come from Christian morality and Christian background. But those days are long gone. Grandma's not around. A lot of families are broken. So because a lot of families are broken, and there's no respect for the preacher and church and the Bible, the floodgates are wide open. And now that the floodgates are wide open, people have been involved in other doctrines and other systems and in other beliefs. We see just the last 2 weeks, we see so many people in Hollywood, women talking about being molested, just that hashtag Me Too. So many actors in Hollywood are just, people may say it started with Bill Cosby, but it's all over the place. It's in Washington, D.C., even the president talking about grabbing them by their vagina, all type of crazy stuff. The gates are open, and people have called forth certain things. And because they've called forth certain things, because they've been involved in the occult doctrine and calling forth the ancient spirits and the ancient spirits of all different groups of people. I'm not just going to put this on black people or white people. Everybody's been calling forth spirits or energies from the underworld and portals and dealing with stones and laying hands, and all this mystical stuff is happening. All this mystical stuff is happening, and we're paying a price for it now. These are signs of the times that we're living in. I'm not saying the end of the world is going to be next week. I don't really believe in the end of the world as some preachers speak about the end of the world. I don't think that's really biblical, but we're living in a time where grandma's not around, so doors are open. So back in the 80s and the 90s, they were killing everybody with the crack and the dope in the street. The heroin is coming back. Blacks, whites, all type of people. Percocet, all the prescription drugs. All the prescription drugs. It's madness that has spread in the land, and it's because there are no gatekeepers. There is no morality. So now people are upset, saying, "Oh, and Margaret Sanger," and they're pushing the abortion in the African American community. It wouldn't be so many abortions and so much divorce if we had a moral standard we were keeping. But we don't want the Bible, so we don't have a moral standard. And then other people are giving us that trap. The new trap is the drug music. That trap life that people are singing about and talking about, and they're pushing it on the radio. You can't go to a club. You can't go anywhere. If you're not safe in church, you can't go to a club. They're hitting them hammers off. They making them things blow. They doing what they do. And this is the lifestyle that we have. We've adopted this lifestyle. And we've done certain things because of our choices to make America what it is today. You could try to blame the white man as a black person. White people are trying to blame blacks, and blacks are trying to blame white. There's a standard that we left because we can go back to O'Hare and or Murray and so many different people. When we start talking about pulling prayer out of school, we never seen all of this killing. We never seen some of what we're seeing right now, but there's no more standard. There's no more standard. And people don't want to live up to a certain standard, so we're running around blaming other people for our lifestyle. There's people that's pushed a certain culture, a certain type of music that people are involved in. You can say what you want. Mind control, music, trap life. I know at least 100 brothers that's locked up right now behind that music and that life and chasing that trap life and materialism and being caught up into stripping and the B word and disrespecting women and having them hammers. And this is the culture. This is something that we've allowed to come. We've glorified the drug dealers. Can't clean up the hood right now. It's a real dark time that we're living in, and it's because of a direct result, because of our actions. Any way you want to cut the cake, it's a bad time in America and the world in general. My name is Brother Berean. I just wanted to share this little thing. If y'all like what y'all heard, subscribe. Thanks for watching.